Hey everybody, this is Dave Tribbett here with another V3Connect, Focus on the Community. Today I'm super excited to be here with Lisa McClease-Kelly, and she is the co-owner of Kelly's Automotive Service. She is also a coach. She is DISC certified. She focuses on the leadership and communication, and her core 3 C's are community, culture, and communication within your organization. I'm super excited to be talking with you today, Lisa. And could you please tell the audience a little bit about yourself and the work that you do?
Sure. Thank you for having me. So first of all, my first love is my business is here in Southern Oregon, Kelly's Automotive Service in Grants Pass and Medford. We have 27 wonderful staff. And we're just really happy to be in this community. Southern Oregon is one of the most giving communities in the world. And it's an honor to have a business here. And then my other love is as a leadership coach. And I deal a lot with communication. I start out with DISC. I go in, I assess the staff.
And I know that there's a lot of different systems and stuff. Maybe some people have heard about Myers-Briggs and personality tests, different types of ones. What do you like and what do you find valuable for your clients and for yourself with the DISC system of assessment?
That's a great question. Yeah, I spent a lot of years looking for the right assessment, something that would bring my clients the best value. This particular DISC assessment does that. So it not just has the assessment, but it has about 36 to 40 pages of education that goes with it, depending on the assessment. We have leadership, we have sales and self assessments. So there's education that goes along with each one of those. I take that, I break it down, and then we do a coaching session based on the results. So it's not just, okay, here's your top 2 behavioral styles. It's how is your behavioral style integrating into your business? How are you feeling about that business? What's working for you? What motivates you? What's your ideal work environment? And based on those answers, we start coaching around that information.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, some of these assessments can be used before you actually onboard a new employee or with an employee that you've onboarded and you're not maybe sure that they're a right fit for the team, possibly, or maybe something came up, or maybe the whole entire organization. Is that accurate? I mean, do you work with people on that vetting process before they're hired with an organization, or maybe somebody having an issue with an organization and the entire organization overall?
Yeah, so it depends on the state on whether or not you can use that to make the decision, make the hiring decision, right? Sometimes you just want to know as part of the process who that person is, how they behave. But definitely once they get in, having them assessed so that you know the best way to communicate with them. And what I do for organizations is if it's a large organization, then we go department by department because that's where it really matters. Mm-hmm. And then if it's a small business, we just do the entire small business.
You use this with Kelly's Automotive Services as well?
Oh, of course. Yeah. We practice what we preach. We talk about it at the morning meetings. We have education. We've actually changed the way that we do some things in our business based on the feedback from these assessments. I'll give you an example. We had an employee who I was sitting down and doing a debrief with on one of the assessments. And one of the questions of motivators was he felt like he needed to be part of something bigger. And I said, how are we meeting that motivator for you? He said, well, I love what you guys are doing in the community, but I didn't know that we gave away cars to single moms. So why aren't we part of that process? Mm-hmm. And we weren't talking about it because it wasn't benefiting nonprofit. So we felt like we shouldn't be talking about it. But at the same time, we were robbing our staff of that opportunity to be part of something bigger. So we changed the way that we did that. And now they're all part of that conversation. When we give away something to somebody, they help pick out the car. They're all involved in the decision. And now it's more than just a place to work. It's, okay, what I'm doing is making a difference.
Yeah, that's amazing. Can you tell me and the audience a little bit more about what is it that you're doing there with giving away cars? I haven't talked to anybody that's actually done something on on that level locally?
So it's not something that we do very often, or that we don't really talk about in the community, because it's staff driven. So if we have something called an angel fund that we instituted, and it's all staff driven. People cannot be nominated for it. They can't ask for it. If the staff sees someone and they feel like there's a need, they all get together. They decide either how much, whether it be a car, or we just fix their car for free, or, you know, whatever it is, maybe we send them a gift basket, whatever it is, they can use that angel fund to bless somebody. So they all decide whether or not it's a good idea to bless this person. They call Dave and I, we approve it, and then they take care of it.
And I think I remember back now at one of the meetings, I think that there was an individual that was a local church, and they had an accident with their multi-passenger van. And I think there was a conversation that you guys may have helped them. I think Greg was talking with them about that. How did you get your start in business? What was the origin of bringing you to the point where you are now? Because I think sometimes people see like where an individual is right now, but they don't really necessarily see all of that hard work and a lot of those processes and stuff that bring you to the point where you are with Kelly Automotive Service and with the coaching and stuff like that you do. What was the origin of those things that might be helpful to individuals watching this video?
Yeah, so as far as the automotive business goes, my husband is a master certified L1 technician. And when we moved from the California Bay Area to here, his goal was to open up a business. We didn't know if it was going to be automotive. We didn't know what it was going to be. This just happened to be something that when he walked into what was the toolbox in Grants Pass and said, "Hey, do you know of any businesses for sale?" The owner said, "Well, actually." So we got into it, and we made so many mistakes, Dave, that I can't even tell you. I'm surprised sometimes that we're still in business.
I mean, you don't have to be perfect.
Oh my gosh, we made so many mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, it was just huge. There was years where we felt like, I mean, I worked for free for probably 7 or 8 years. I just didn't get paid. And then Dave would pay himself every now and then, only just to get our house payment paid. And we always felt like we were stealing from the business just to make our house payment. My mother covered our Christmas for like 7 years.
Wow.
You know, this was a process. This was not an overnight success in any way, shape, or form. Luckily, we reached out to experts and people who knew what they were doing in the field. We joined a mastermind group for, it was an automotive mastermind group. And I learned how to market and how we had absolutely no money. And the other part of my background was in nonprofit. So I always felt like we should be doing something for the local nonprofits, but I don't have any money to give them. But hey, I just learned some cool marketing skills. What can I do through my business to help them? So that's how we started out, as really a cause marketing community business. And eventually we figured out our purpose to be in these communities is to bless our clients, our staff, and our communities. That's why we're here.
That's amazing. I don't think a lot of people really realize what they're getting into when they start a business or buy a business. You know, I have a question about that, the coaching and stuff like that. What is a sign or something that should trigger a person's thought, you know, I need to call Lisa, we need some help with that? What's a good indication of that they're having an issue within their organization?
High turnover would be the first thing. You know, when you're constantly going through a lot of staff members, then you're probably, one, you're not hiring right. And then when they're in there, you may not be taking care of them like they need to be taken care of. Our staff is our number one client, right? We are responsible to them to make sure that the 40 plus hours that they're spending at work, they feel like they're connected and that they're taken well care of. So if you're having high turnover, then that's probably not happening.
And what about before you're onboarding an individual, that in that process that you're able to help a client with?
So for some of my clients, and it depends on the state and what's allowed, we can do a DISC assessment before they're hired. And then I do a debrief interview with them and then just give that information to the client, and they can use that within that interview process. But in some states, you cannot make a decision based on an assessment to hire somebody. So we just have to make sure that we're doing it all by the book.
It would normally be an element, right, of the hiring process?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now with Kelly's automotive service, what is your focus there? Do you work on only import vehicles, gas, diesel? What is the scope of work and service that you offer there?
So we work on almost all small vehicles. We don't work on motorhomes. We don't work on big rigs. We have a diesel specialist. And we do work on imports and everything else. So it's just kind of we don't have any one specialty. We work on just about everything.
Wonderful. And I had a great experience myself. And I also found out when I actually called in that my dad and stuff like that uses your guys' service too. So that's wonderful.
No, thank you. I appreciate
Now,
it.
culture seems to be a really interesting piece for me. Why is it that, or what can you do to help with the development of culture for organizations?
So we'll start with the why. We know that if employees are unhappy at work, they're more likely to have higher instances of heart disease, cancer, depression, alcoholism, and drug use. We also know that if somebody is working 60 hours a week at a job where they're happy, their family is less likely to be negatively affected as the person who's working 20 hours a week in an environment where they're not happy. So what we're doing in our businesses is affecting all other areas of society. So that's a huge responsibility. We also know that employees who are unhappy have higher instances of absenteeism, mistakes, and they're less productive. So not only is it the ethical thing to do to take care of our staff, it's the profitable thing to do.
That's wonderful. And, a lot of businesses will have turnover. And at its core, sometimes it's the type of business. Maybe it's young people in fast food or something, as an example. Are those things still, highly important with something like a franchise fast food place and stuff too, versus, other types of businesses? What have you found to be the case there?
Sure. I don't think it matters what the business is. I think when we are relying on a business to make sure that we can pay our bills, pay our mortgage, feed our families, and we're being treated without respect, and we don't feel safe in those environments, it affects every other aspect of our life.
The other piece, I appreciate you sharing. The other piece of that question was like the how, right? So when you come in or somebody contacts you, how do you work differently than some of the other maybe experiences you've had with other companies, or what has the feedback been in the how piece of what it is that you do for your clients?
Yeah, so the feedback I've gotten is, wow, we've had consultants before, we come in, we do this test, whatever, and then we find out who we are and then they leave. And the feedback I'm getting is that this is the best training or consulting or coaching that some of them have ever had, because it's not just the assessment. So yes, we do the DISC assessment on every staff member, but then we take that assessment and it's an individual coaching session for each person. We find out what's working. What are your strengths in the business? How do you utilize those strengths in the business? How is that showing up? And sometimes the managers or owners may not be paying attention to that, right? So how can we help that person be successful based on their strengths? How can we motivate them by what actually motivates them on a one-to-one basis? And then I go in and coach the leadership based on what we find out in those assessments.
That sounds so much thorougher than some of the things that I've heard about, because taking an assessment is one thing, of course, and it tells you maybe a little bit about yourself, maybe that you didn't know, or maybe you're like, I already know that, but you're actually talking about taking this to another level where you're customizing this for the individual. Then you're looking at the integration with the organization and how that all comes together. Am I mistaken in that, or?
No, that's exactly right. And the one thing I want to say is the stakeholders, the business owners, the managers, they have to be on board with this or it's just a waste of time, right? Yeah. So if you're not willing to make the changes that need to be made, and if you're not coachable, then it's really not a good fit for your organization. But if you're looking to make sure that your culture is going to be different, that your employees are going to be happy where they are, and that your business is going to be more profitable based on what we find out, it's a good fit.
Wow. So you do an evaluation, or maybe an early evaluation of the ownership to see the receptivity of what it is that and the amazing work that you would do within the organization.
Right. So one of the worst things I can do is to go in and have them say, hey, we want you to coach John because, he's just not doing things right. Well, unless John's open for coaching, then I'm wasting their money and my time and the employee's time. Unless it's going to be the management saying, hey, we really want to help John to be successful, we want you to be part of that process, then it's not a good fit. So
what would a normal relationship look like? Is it something that's spread out over a period of time? What does that normally look like when you engage the receptive, and what does that typically look like? Or is that all custom as well?
Most of it is custom, but one of the things that I love to do is take something called a conflict resolution report. And we put people side by side who may be having problems communicating and figure out where that breakdown might be. I mean, sometimes it's just black and white. You can have one person whose focus is task and just getting stuff done really quickly, and another person's focus is people and they want to have a relationship, right? So now we see this immediate conflict. So how can we go about and adapt? We each need to give a little bit so that we can have a better communication. That's great. I appreciate you sharing that. It's a wonderful point. And I also, got to know your organization, your husband a little bit. You guys hosted greeters. I know you have a lot that you do in the community overall. What are some of those community ties and activities that you take part in, and what do those things mean to you, not just as a business owner, but an important individual in the community that works with and helps in the community? Well, our purpose for being in business is to bless our staff, our clients, and our community. That's why we're here. So any way that we can do that, we like to try and do that. We have so many organizations that we try and support through the year. Sometimes we change it up a little bit depending on what the staff would like to do. But our main one every year is the Wipeout campaign that we do, where we bring in peanut butter for the food banks, peanut butter, cashew butter, any kind of nut butter or soy butter. And we exchange those for windshield wipers during the rainy season. And I think we're going on, probably our 10th year this year. Wow. And it's a great thing for the food banks, because after that, we do it in January and February, because after the holidays, people stop thinking about the food banks and their donations go down. And the reason we came up with it is because I was at a committee meeting for the local food bank in Grants Pass, and our rations from the Oregon Food Bank were potato chips and bubble gum. And we were supposed to feed children with that. Oh, no. So got a little bit upset and came up with this, and that's how it started. So now, next month we're doing Get a Break on Brakes, and we will give people brake pads for a very discounted price, and they will write a check for those brake pads to a local nonprofit. Wow. They pay for the labor. We've got Napa Auto Parts, the manufacturer, and the warehouse splitting the cost of high quality brake pads with us so that we can do this. Okay. So it just depends on what we've got going, who our staff wants to support, and we go from there. How has technology changed the work that you do with Kelly's Automotive and with your coaching? Well, with the automotive business, it's all based on technology. We subscribe to several different software programs so that we can help diagnose cars. We have to have equipment that has to be updated on a monthly basis with new software programs. And then the car technology, all of the different computers within the cars now, the sensors within the cars now, you have to be up on it. You have to know what you're doing. And it's a continual education. It's no longer that backyard mechanic that you thought that you could be a long time ago. Cars are extremely sophisticated, and technology is a huge part of that business if you're going to be successful.
Yeah.
So as far as the coaching business, before Zoom came along, I was talking to my clients on the phone. I rarely meet clients in person because I only have one client locally. The rest are around the United States. And when Zoom came in, it was a little bit different for me at first, but now I can see when there's a pause that I didn't lose connection, that they are there. And I can sit with them in that pause while they're processing. So for me, it's been a great way to connect with my clients.
Wonderful. And can you like virtually do like some of the disc assessment stuff, or how is that assessment part?
So I do it virtually. I send links to the entire staff. I need to know their email, their job position, and then we decide which assessment will be best for them. They take the assessment. I get the results. It also goes to the person who's taking the assessment and the owner or manager. And then we do the debrief on Zoom like this. And then if there's a training that's needed, I usually do those in person for companies. Sometimes companies fly me out to do those in person, but I'm working on an online program to do that as well.
So when you talk about it online, it's basically like a virtual training space or something?
Yeah, so it'll be a virtual training where instead of having everybody in a classroom environment, it's something where we can do Zoom and breakout rooms and kind of get the same. Of course, it's never as much fun online as it is in person, but I have some things that are up my sleeve to make it pretty fun while we're doing it online.
Wow. That's so amazing that you're made that transition and finding those integrations. I have other individuals in different places, not around here, that do different levels of coaching, and they have to, everything they've built it off of is like jovial, reading the room, making it fun. And it sounds like you're really making some great strides and implementations of different technologies to still engage and help your clients. That's phenomenal.
Thank you.
As we round out this interview and stuff, I'm really curious, as a business owner, an individual that's very active in the community, serving in a nonprofit, doing everything that you can. I wonder if you could just take a couple minutes, and if you have some thoughtful feedback or some words of inspiration or things that would be beneficial to other individuals out there, maybe business owners, maybe they're an employee, maybe they've had some difficult times possibly with different jobs they've had, whatever it is. If you could just take a couple minutes to kind of share some of your thoughts to add value to the individuals that see this video, that would be great.
Yeah, so for businesses, I would say start hiring more based on your culture and your values. And if you haven't identified those, that's something that is important to do. Making sure that you're hiring the right people is not only the best thing for your business, but the best thing for the rest of your team, because whoever you're bringing in is something they're going to have to deal with on a daily basis. So we want to make sure that we're hiring based on those values. This is how I do it. In most cases, we can teach the skills. We can send them to school. I can teach somebody to be a service writer. But to find somebody with an excellent work ethic who has the same values that we do and fits in with our team, that's a harder thing to find. So that's what I'm looking for first. And that's what I help my clients realize as well. As far as the individuals, again, I love the thought of values. So if you haven't identified your values, then figure out what those are, and I can help with that. But once we know our values, now we can start working within those values. For example, one of my values is connection, right? So the way I go about doing that is making sure I've got a 10-minute check-in when I go in to the shops. I walk around and say, how can I help you? What's going on? So I can get that connection. Because automotive, it's not really my thing. Nonprofits, connecting, doing those things, the things that I value, learning. Those are all things that I can take into a business that I never thought I'd be in, so that I can be happy and successful.
Wonderful. That's so amazing, because I have talked to so many companies that in their process, they're like, does a person need know Excel and Word and a couple other things? But they're not looking necessarily at a match for their culture, and maybe they don't even have a defined culture, which I think is even more problematic long term for the stability and profitability and what they're able to do with the company. With that said, what is the best way for someone to find more information about Kelly's automotive service? What is the website, or how can they best connect with you with the coaching and everything that you do for the companies?
Sure. So for the shops, it's kellysautomotive.com. Look that up, and then depending on where you are, give them a call if you need help with that. And then for me, the best way is really through either my Facebook page at Coach Lisa MK, or on LinkedIn, it's just Lisa McClease-Kelly. I have a website that's in the middle of being redone. It's coachlisamk.com, or just my email, lisa.mcclease@gmail.com.
Perfect. I greatly appreciate your time today. It's absolutely amazing, all the insights and stuff that you've shared, and to get to learn about the coaching and Kelly's automotive service. I'll make sure I put the links below. And I hope this has been informational for everybody that watches this video. And stay tuned for more great V3 Connect Focus on the Community interviews. It was great talking with you today, Lisa. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.